Hi and welcome to another episode of The Leadership Enigma. Now, you know that we have over 150 episodes, so please do check out the YouTube channel, subscribe to that so you can see all of the episodes which will go onto the channel and all the back catalogue which will also go onto the channel. And you know that you can find us on all your major podcast platforms. Now, what a privilege to be working with leaders all over the world. And we always talk about how do we prepare and make sure that we're ready for every eventuality. But the reality is, how do we make sure that we are in the moment and we're ready for something as it happens, that we have that confidence, we have that panache, we just have the ability to get on with it. Sometimes we don't see it coming around the corner. So you don't want to miss this particular episode when I have the wonderful Neil Mullarkey with me in the studio for the first time. Neil Mullarkey, comedian extraordinaire, author extraordinaire, co-founder of the Comedy Store Players with Mike Myers. There is so much that Neil will do a much better job of explaining who he is and what he's been doing than me. Come back to me just after this break. Hi, I'm Adam Pacifico and welcome to The Leadership Enigma, a world-ranked, award-winning podcast that's insatiably curious as regards what leaders do, how they do it, and importantly, why. We'll delve into the human doing, but even deeper into the human being and the power of human-centered leadership to drive sustainable change. So whether you're an entrepreneur, business owner, corporate executive, each week we speak to global experts, academics, rising stars, ambitious upstarts and disruptors, as together we will discover that success leaves clues. So Neil, it's a huge welcome to the Leadership Enigma. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you for having me.
This is your second time on the show.
I was so good.
You were so good. We booked you again.
Well, I was last time with Adam Kingle.
Now, Adam's in America at the moment,
Yeah.
so if he's, I'm hoping, watching or listening, he's also going to come back in because he's got a book out too.
He has.
But this is your first time in the studio.
I'm very excited to be in the studio. You've flown me to Bermuda to be in this plush studio. It's fantastic
It's our
to be
best
here.
kept secret, isn't it?
It is.
Now,
Thank
you're
you.
someone who's very used to being in the studio, so I think you were mildly impressed, weren't you, with the
Mild,
surrounding?
stoutly impressed. This is amazing. It's fantastic. Last time it was just you in a shed. You did have some sort of box that made you feel like a jukebox.
Do you know
dude.
what? It was a lockdown project, remember,
Yeah.
that has just grown
It's
and
just
grown.
and grown. The Pacifico is like the Pacific. It's everywhere.
Oh, I like that. I can see where this episode is going to go.
You're an ocean of podcast.
We are going to have fun. Even I can hear James chuckling in the corridors already.
I think he's coughing. He's just.
Oh, is he just coughing? Listen, I did a very, very bad introduction, really, I think. But I've got to just want to start with a question because I know you've also spoken about this. You co-founded the Comedy Store Players with Mike Myers. Now, you just got to tell that story. And I think in some ways, I always find that if we talk about Mike Myers, it dates me because it's either synonymous with Wayne's World, with Shrek, or with Austin Powers. And I think depending where we are on that demographic depends on how did that happen?
Yeah, loads of people don't know who he is other than Shrek, and I believe there's a new Shrek coming out.
Oh, is there? You heard it here
I can
first.
reveal that. So the thing is, I was doing a show with the Cambridge Footlights. So this is Cambridge University people. I went to Cambridge because I wanted to be in the Footlights, because John Cleese, because Monty Python, because
Yes.
Peter Cook. I got there and Stephen Fry and Hugh Laurie and Emma Thompson were there.
Right.
So that's the kind of person that attracted me. And then obviously since then, Mitchell and Webb, Olivia Colman, Sacha Baron Cohen, loads of brilliant writer-performers, etc. And so he'd heard of the Cambridge Footlights. So when we were playing in a tiny pub theatre, in Notting Hill,
Yes.
and he just moved here, didn't know anybody. He knocked on the door and said to them, "Can I help?" Thinking he'd meet John Cleese, and it was just us schmucks. And
You're
they
right.
said they didn't know who he was, so they said, "You can paint the set." So he painted our set. And
You
was-
got Mike Myers painting the set.
exactly,
Love
and
it.
selling tickets for us. So we had used all. It was a pub theatre. We'd used all the regular chairs on stage. So he was sitting in a wheelchair, not because he's a wheelchair user, because that was all that was left.
Right.
Selling tickets, these little sort of raffle ticket stubs, freezing cold. He was in his hat and coat and scarf because there was no central heating. And I got talking to him.
Yes.
And he said, "I've come from Second City, Canada."
Yes.
I'd heard of Second City because a lot of people came from Second City to Saturday Night Live,
Right, okay.
including the Blues Brothers, John Belushi, Dan Aykroyd. And I thought, oh, if he's come from that stable, I want to know more. He was amazed.
You're talking about heroes of mine now.
Exactly.
Wow.
And it's a great joy to me that my son's favourite movie is The Blues Brothers.
Oh.
So I discovered all about this, and I didn't know. Mike told me that actually Second City do improv. I knew they did sketches, but they do improv as well, and often they develop characters through improv. So he and I started doing a double act because he's funny. I don't know if you noticed, but he's funny. And he just made me laugh.
He's got a way about him, hasn't he?
Yeah. Well, I took him to... I said... He was writing sketches. I said, in 1985, nobody's doing sketches. It was all stand-up, alternative.
Right.
So we went to see a few things. He made me laugh, including one time we went out and he did that thing where he walks down the stairs.
Yes.
But he did it the other side of a car. And so I said, let's do something together. We called ourselves Mullarkey and Myers. And we basically wrote sketches that were just silly. So we did a sketch based on what you could do if you can only see the top half of somebody.
Right.
So I'm glad this is on YouTube. But for example, we had a bit where somebody dun 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 dun. It was a shark.
Right.
Jaws. Do we have to pay copyright for that? And then and we actually, it was a fish slice like that, doing the fin of the shark, and lots of other things where you could only see the top half of somebody. So that was called Dr. Wicked. This character who was so evil that he was invisible. So to be visible, we put up. Oh, look at that! That's my book, by the way. But I don't know what James is doing.
I think he's trying to find something. Because
yeah.
if you're saying Dr. Wicked, I wonder if that was almost the seed of the ideas of some of the characters that Mike Myers has gone into.
I dare say it is. We used to, and he kind of acknowledged this. We used to say, what if you're a kind of an evil villain and you talk to your son? You say, one day all of this will be yours.
Right.
One day you'll be as evil as me, sort of thing. And if you're a henchman, do you get a pension? What are the terms and conditions of being a henchman? And in Austin Powers, there's kind of a celebration, and then the henchman, you get the phone call, oh, he's died, oh dear. Anyway, the thing was, we started this double act. It was just silly, funny, cartoony stuff.
Right.
We did one sketch, which was basically those 1950s movies in America where the aliens have landed, and the aliens clearly are communists. And so I played an alien and all the other characters in the village, and Mike was the leader trying to repel the aliens. And so people saw this. There's a woman called Kit Hollaback who'd worked with Robin Williams in San Francisco. She was doing a show at the same venue in Edinburgh as us,
Right.
along with a guy called Dave Cohen, who's a writer who'd done Horrible Histories and Havercott News, and a young fellow called Paul Martin, real name Paul Martin, stage name Paul Merton. So we sort of said, let's do an improv bit one night at Edinburgh at 2 a.m. So Kit
As you do,
because that's the slots.
That's
available.
Edinburgh.
Mike and Kit taught us some of the games. We did it. There's about 7 people in the audience. By the end, Paul, Dave, and Kit had run away. Just me and Mike were there. And we got a door split, £1.85 each, something like that. But then the Comedy Store said, oh, that's interesting. We'll have a go at this. Because they were just doing Fridays and Saturdays.
Yep.
And so they said, why don't you do Sundays? We'll do improv. But nobody had heard of improv. So basically, I met Mike. He was selling tickets for a show I was in. He made me laugh, and he thought I was acceptable. We did this double act. The improv thing sort of came along.
Yep.
Because the Comedy Store wanted something, and Kit and Dave were saying, well, let's do some improv. Sunday could fit it. And Mike and I have been friends ever since. That's why I'm in a couple of his Austin Powers movies.
I know. I was just about to ask that. You have made your way into those movies.
Well, it's funny how I was on safari 20 years ago in South Africa, and I don't know, this guy asked what I did, and he Googled me,
Right.
and he found the Swedish-made enlarger scene in Austin Powers.
Yeah.
And it's kind of as if I'd said I was, the Messiah. The people who love Austin Powers, and particularly that scene.
It's an iconic character.
They think, it's a great calling card. They'll forgive me anything if I say I was the man who just had to look a bit sort of supercilious. And Mike it was hard to get me in, to be honest with you. Can I reveal this? Is that when you do a movie,
Yeah.
or when you did then, you had to have a certain number of points, especially for international sales. Points being, so Hugh Grant is 5.
Right.
Okay.
I didn't know any of this.
Yes, exactly. And somebody else could be 2 or 3, and they were thinking for this character, this could be a way. There we go. That's my scene. Well done. Look at how young I am.
This is brilliant.
There we go. How exciting. This is great stuff, James. So I didn't know Liz Hurley, but I did know Hugh Grant because I played cricket with him. And Chris Lang, who's written Unforgotten, and another actor called Andy Taylor. So we chatted. And so I was kind of touch and go. They needed some points, but I think they got They got a few other actors to play small parts here and there.
Right.
What was the guy who called Tom, Roseanne Barr's ex-husband, who was in the toilet when somebody's saying who is number 2, and he was squeezing out a poo? That kind of thing. And they got.
I told you this episode could go anywhere.
So anyway, they said, okay, we can. So I was 0. Your friend who's 0, it's okay. We've got some other numbers elsewhere.
Right.
And so I flew in, and it was a bit scary. And basically, I had from 4 o'clock until about 6 o'clock to do this scene because it was all fairly low budget because nobody.
Austin Powers did an enormous success, though.
Well, it was. It was one of those things. The budget was tiny.
Right.
Mostly my fee. There we go. This sort of thing is my bag, baby. But it was tiny, so
everyone you just want to do an impression suddenly, don't you? When you watch this scene,
because he's a bit little based on one of my friends who said, "Hello,
right?
This sort of thing ain't my bag, baby. Nothing to do with me." And this he loves English characters, of course. So there we go. All I had to do was slightly look sardonic in the background and feed in Mike his lines when he did his thing. There we go.
Brilliant. I love it.
So anyway, Mike and I still in touch. I was in the Pentaveret,
right.
His Netflix series that came out last year, some of which was filmed here, not far from where we are. We're not actually in Bermuda.
No, we're not.
We're in Mill Hill.
I wanted to leave it as Bermuda, Neil, but it's fine. You've outed us now.
The UCL Observatory is where the final scene that I'm in.
Which is just round the corner.
So Mike's kept in touch. So I was lucky to be in that. He said, "I've written this thing for you. Only you can do it." And they've persuaded that I can do it. Fair enough. We're filming in London.
Yeah.
You'll get a nice costume. And so I'm in. So we are chums ever since. And I was his kind of introduction to England, I suppose. His parents are British. But he needed a chum to sort of get his way into this cabaret circuit. We were very popular with the other comedians because we were unlike anyone else, really.
Yeah.
And they were slightly amused by us because we had loads of props. We had a curtain and 2 kind of big sort of traffic cones to hold up the curtain and a bamboo stick to do this thing. We had a Ford Fiesta full of props. And then the improv thing we did, Mike then went back to Canada because he wanted to go back to Second City. His dad was unwell. But we kept in touch, did our show in Toronto a couple of times, including in 1990. So that's where I got the improv bug. And it was about 20...
From humble beginnings.
From humble beginnings. Well, I was in the Footlights, which people... I'm lucky because I toured Australia and the UK because of the Footlights, because of John Cleese and Monty Python, really. We were riding on their coattails. But this improv bug took me.
Right.
Where you make up scenes and stories and sketches based on audience suggestions. And it's all about listening. It's all about working with what you didn't expect, or perhaps you did, but I work with what you give me. She works with what I give her. It's give and take. You treat what the other person says as an offer. So it's our 38th anniversary.
Oh, wow.
Can you believe? October 9, 2023. So that I'm older than most of our audience, or the Comedy Store players are certainly older. But about 25 years ago, I thought, I love this thing so much. I want to teach it to people in business. Couldn't it be a useful thing where you are making listening the important thing? Listening, co-creating, building on what the other person said. You can deal with uncertainty. Didn't expect that. That's okay. If I'm listening, I'll be able to work with what she said. I'll create rapport, etc. Open to new ideas. I'm doing a picture now, divergent thinking, which is opening things up.
Look at you.
As opposed to...
you've gone all business on us. You've changed, Neil.
Convergent is you try and find the answer. There's only one answer. Divergent says, are we even asking the right question? And you need both those mindsets on different occasions, don't you?
We're going to dig into this. I've got one question, though. Why was the Cambridge Footlights such a magnet for so much talent?
Well, I think it's self-fulfilling in a way.
Okay.
Because whoever it was in the 50s, I don't know, and then it's certainly Peter Cook, and then the Goodies and Monty Python in the 60s. Exactly. Yeah. And David Frost, there's loads of people. Julie Covington, if she was the first woman, they didn't allow women until 60-something, and Eric Idle said, this is mad.
Right.
And Jermaine Greer. So I wanted to do the Footlights because of all those people. And obviously, Stephen Fry, Hugh Laurie, people were... They were the equivalent of Monty Python for Robert Webb, David Mitchell.
There's almost the people passing the baton to the next group.
People have never heard of Monty Python. They've heard of Sacha Baron Cohen. They've heard of Olivia Colman.
Right.
And there's they've heard of the people who are coming up now through Cambridge. So there's loads of them. So I think it's self-fulfilling. There's plenty of people from Oxford as well. There's plenty of people not from university. Rick Mail, Ben Elton, Ade Edmondson went to Manchester.
Oh, again, we've lost so many of these people
Yes,
as well now, which
yes.
is such a shame.
But I think there's a kind of thing, Cambridge Footlights is a thing. Because for me it was, I'll tell my parents I'm going to Cambridge. I'll study economics. And then see how it goes with the Footlights. If I get in, then I'll reveal it. My dad, because he'd seen me in the school play, I'm now the treasurer of the Footlights at the end of my first year. He said, do you want to do this as your job? I said, yes. Because he'd always said, A, study what you want, not for a job. So I'd already gone a bit off the rails because my family are all scientists. My dad was a chemical engineer doing economics. Then at the end of my first year, I said, I don't do economics anymore. Because it's people say, assume perfect competition, the rational economic actor. And none of us is rational, Adam, are we? We don't buy the cheapest thing. We buy from the nice man or the nice lady because his picture's nice.
Let's be honest, some of the largest companies in the world have made a great living off the back of that.
Exactly. We're not rational. So then I said, why do we do things? So I did social sciences and political science, which is how we are, who we are, how we work with other people. So you can see I was always interested in stuff like that. So I was already off the rails going to sociology and psychology. Then I became president of Footlights and I said, this is what I wanted to do.
And that was it.
Well, it wasn't quite it, because I heard my mum on the stage, on the phone once, saying, Neil. Yes, Neil, because my brother's an accountant, my other brother's a chemical engineer.
Was there a little bit of disappointment in your
Huge.
mum? Okay.
I could, on the phone, she's saying to one of her friends, yes, Neil, yes, he's trying to break into show business. And it was kind of so laden with disappointment. But I win.
You do.
Because the Comedy Store Players have been going for 38 years.
Happy birthday.
And both my brothers have obviously had to move and, been retrenched and so forth with their so-called proper jobs.
Yes.
So the one thing I can say is I've had a proper job.
That's amazing.
But the improv thing is the thing that I just love, where we don't know what we're going to say, but I know we're going to go there together.
Which is why you wrote the book In the Moment.
In the Moment.
A number of people might remember you from Whose Line Is It Anyway? Because I think you did that for a while as well, didn't you? How many years were you doing that? Well, that was, again, something I loved. Was it Clive Anderson?
Clive Anderson was the host.
Clive Anderson, the link there is, he's a barrister.
He's also from the Cambridge Footlights. Yes, exactly.
Oh, okay. So
right. you're a barrister. So you're always interesting because a barrister has to have his script. You have to know the law and stuff and know the stuff. You might have to listen. You often have to. So you're kind of doing a bit of both. Because I was in Whose Line Is It Anyway? But the book is kind of saying sometimes life is improvised and sometimes life has to be organised. There are things you have to organise. So, for example, I got here on time.
Yes.
Lovely James has pressed the button saying press and record.
We hope he has anyway. This would be great content. No.
Do I have to do it all over again? And then he's going to tidy it up. He'll edit out the things where I say poo or something. Yeah. And then, but also we're in the moment here. And so I have my cake and eat it in this book because I say sometimes a moment could be 6 months when you're thinking about who am I? What job am I going to do next? Yeah. And I borrow, Adam, do you know who Woodrow Wilson is?
I do know who Woodrow Wilson is.
But he's the only president of the United States who had a PhD in political science.
I didn't know that.
Exactly. And I borrowed this, he said, people make the mistake of thinking government is accountable to Newton, not to Darwin. Oh. What do you think he means by that? Because Newton is laws of motion and mechanics and stuff, and machines press this because of energy transfer, that'll end up there. Newton, laws of motion, think they obey rules. Darwin, adaptation, evolution. And I'm saying sometimes you've got to follow Newton. So, for example, you've got to prepare your briefs if you're a barrister in court. You're doing
that's paperwork, by the way. If anyone's wondering what
you've got to do a presentation. If you're rehearsing it, it's got to be rehearsed. You've got to know what you're saying. You can't wander off subject. 10 minutes. So I say to people, and I teach presentation, make it 9 minutes 30. Make sure you got your point. Make sure you got a good start, good close. Properly sorted out. Structure, organised. Zoom, Teams meetings makes them organised, structured. Have an agenda, budgets, have a rough strategy, that kind of where you got to get to. We like that. The danger comes when you say, I'll improvise that presentation. You go on for 20 minutes and you've not made your point.
Right.
Equally, the danger comes when you should have a conversation with a client, a colleague, one of your direct reports, where you think, I'll stick to my script, and they need you to listen.
It's that balance.
And that balance, and we need both. That's why I almost called the book Yes, But. Because in improv, it's all about yes and.
Exactly. See, I've learned something already.
We talked about that with Adam. And the yes, but is yes, but when do we not need improv skills? Because I kind of say, wouldn't it be great if everyone had improv skills? But for heaven's sake, don't make me or any other professional comedy improviser chief executive of any company, because we're not so good at the other stuff, the tidy up stuff.
I've always had a question in mind that even when you're in the moment, even when you're on the stage and you have no idea what's going to happen, or even if I think of that in a business context, are you still drawing down from all of the years of experience and wisdom and bringing that into the in the moment? Because you must be drawing from something.
You got the confidence, you got the technology, which is what Adam Kingle described as. You got that.
Yep.
I know what's going to happen. Doesn't matter. Be fine.
Yep.
You can't help also if you've just come out of a supermarket and you're a bit cheesed off with the excess packaging, that might come into your head, at the last moment or the least expected moment. So you will bring content material that may have popped in or what happened to you today. But also you've got the depth of just, I know what could go wrong. That'll be fine. We've been here a lot of times, so you have the trust in the process.
I was about to
and
say
your
you're
fellow
trusting
players.
the process.
It's not completely chaotic. It's not completely out of nowhere. Of course it isn't. But there are times when you do say something and you go, where did that come from? I have no idea why I say chicken.
So something brand new might
exactly
just be spirited to the surface.
We recently lost the wonderful, wonderful Andy Smart of the Comedy Store Players, who was a genius at this, of saying something and he kind of, where did that come from? And collapsing into fits of giggles.
Right.
Because we are almost observers of our own unconscious. We're bringing forth stuff. So you're not fully aware of what you're doing. If I may delve a little deeper here.
Do.
They did MRI scans.
Okay.
On jazz performers, jazz improvisers. So they're with a keyboard, MRI, and they found the two bits of your brain that are damped down when you're improvising music are, I know what I'm doing, volition. I choose what happens next.
Right.
And the other one is, I care what people think. Now, a lot of the times...
we could all do with turning that one down, couldn't we?
Well, on occasion, yes. And that's interesting. The improv guru Keith Johnson, who recently died as well, who wrote a book called Impro, but he said you become a good improviser when you let go of the fear of being seen mad, bad or wrong.
Okay.
And that's when I can see, so some people come and do an improv thing and they try to be funny, they try to be good, they try to be polished. They
try and force it too much.
They try and force it, they try and write the whole story. And another quote, Del Close, one of the gurus of Second City in Chicago, said, don't do the thing on your own. All on your own. Don't try and write the whole scene. Bring a brick, and together we will build a cathedral.
We see, I like that.
Exactly. Now that's what improv is. There's somebody out there thinking, Adam, hang on a minute. Who is this guy? Because I'm an architect. I want to have the designs for the cathedral. I may change them as we build. So again, there's that mixture of prep and in the moment.
I'm hearing so many things here, from psychological safety to trust to collaboration to teamwork. And we're going to delve into some of these, which is directly relevant to some of the chapters from your new book as well. I've got to be honest with you, though. Obviously, we've only invited you here on the pretense that we can get L. Vaughan Spencer into the studio.
He's very busy.
Now, can you get us L. Vaughan Spencer?
Well, he's quite busy right at the moment. There he is. His motto is, don't be needy, be succeedy.
Which I love.
And that's his book called The A to Z of Motivitality.
Right.
There he is.
He is again.
One of his acolytes who wouldn't be anything without this man. And you can't quite see his ponytail there. L. Vaughan's. He calls himself Elvo, like J-Lo. He's the gangster motivator. He's in Luton at the moment. He's one of the top motivational speakers in the Luton area.
His fourth most motivational speaker in
there was
Bedfordshire.
The year 2004, actually, it was the three top guys. A guy from Harpenden was really excellent, but he's based in what people are calling the Succeeder Triangle: Luton, Watford, and Stevenage. It's kind of the Silicon Valley of the United Kingdom. I think you might.
The global audience are probably now thinking, "Hang on, I need to work out where this triangle of mayhem is."
Well, I've people. He has performed across the world, and Luton. For those in the UK, London Luton Airport, as we call it.
Yep.
There's a centre.
Not far from here.
Not far from here. Real ley lines, real energy there going on, and people say, "What's Luton like?" Well, is it like Buffalo? Is it like Des Moines? I don't know. I'm sure that there's a Luton in every country where it's the most exciting place you can imagine.
Well, let's be honest. Luton have just been promoted to the Premiership,
well,
they are on the map.
The Hatters Luton Town are now in the Premiership, so maybe L. Vaughan has to leave because Luton's too succeedy.
Where will he go?
I don't know. Well, he does spend some time on the Isle of Wight. Just that's where he goes for his mindlessness workshops.
So we're going to have him. We're going to have him in, aren't we? For the beginning of the year.
Again, we'll have to.
Can we ahead of time?
I think if
can we twist his arm?
I'm going to say sort of spring 2024. That's when his diary's looking a bit emptier.
Okay.
His office is at a top business park and somewhere in the Luton area. So we'll just have to, maybe just send him a letter or something. Right now, he's just off the internet. There's an issue with sort of admin and paying the bills, but he should be fine for 2024 spring-ish.
I love it. So we've got Elle Vaughan, we've got Mike Myers, and huge similarities, I think, between
Absolutely.
lifestyles.
Yeah.
What do you reckon?
I think so. Yeah, you can see what he's wearing there. Right now, you're wearing black, Adam. Whereas he's very much he's done color therapy. When you look at your colors, your personality or lack of it, and there he's wearing autumn colors. He is autumn. And
well, you heard it.
I just see. What are you, Adam? Just a wet weekend in November. What are you? What kind of person are you, Adam?
Well, a wet weekend in November. My birthday's in November.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I'm
a little spooky there.
Are you a Scorpio?
I am.
There you go. I thought so.
God, it's going to be. What a hell of an episode that's going to be, James. And we have Elle Vaughan Spencer.
Yeah, I'll send in the rider.
Yeah.
He does have, a list of requirements.
Does he want an entourage, petals,
the
daisies,
limo, that kind of thing.
specialist water?
The limo.
The limo.
The limo. He doesn't want just a limo. Is like a limo, but it's even better.
Oh, I see.
It's an even better.
Oh, I see. It's a more
also,
elitist.
If you are laying on food, he follows the alphabet diet.
Go on.
Where you only eat food that begins with the first letter of your name.
Right.
So he'll eat lamb, lettuce,
leaves.
Yeah, lamb's lettuce,
licorice.
Exactly.
We could go on.
Yeah, Lithuanian food as well. Yeah.
Well, James, can we do that? Can we meet all of these requirements for Elle Vaughan when he comes in? I hope we can. Listen, we're laughing, which I love, and I just want to ask you this question about laughter at work.
Yes.
We need more of it, don't we?
I think so. I did a lecture the other day to launch this book, and they called it Laughter at Work. I wanted to call it Laugh
Was this
at
part
Work.
of the Primrose Hill lectures?
I'm
sorry I couldn't make it. I would love to have come to
You were
that.
too busy, I think, hobnobbing with somebody.
Elle Vaughan Spencer.
So maybe you were, actually. Yeah, that's right. You're in the business park just chatting. Laugh at work. Why not? Now, the thing is, a lot of people say, I teach improv to business. Oh, you're helping us to do jokes. I don't teach stand-up comedy, though I could. There are better people that can do that. But I do borrow some stand-up comedy things when teaching presentation skills, good start, good close, take your time, look at the audience. Improv is actually a different thing. It's about a process of listening, co-creating, loosening your agenda, flexing in the moment. And then, interestingly, that was where I started. And then sometimes at the end of a workshop, the boss will say to me, this has been great. We've had a day with you, Neil, and we've laughed so much. Because people do the improv things. People can do it. This is my belief, and it's a fact.
People are very nervous, though, aren't they?
They're nervous. You think, I've got to be funny. And actually, when I say improv is about not trying to be funny, it's just trying to be co-creating the story. Yes-anding.
Yeah.
Whatever she says, do it.
Just accept it.
Just accept. Don't worry about being funny. Jokes actually spoil it sometimes because a joke is a full stop quite often.
Right.
And then the boss says, we've had a day where we laughed so much. We don't do that at work. And I'm thinking, yeah, actually, if I've done nothing else than have people laugh together and show a bit of vulnerability, then I've done a good job. So I have got a whole chapter called humour. There are some good stats about humour. For example, I found at Warwick University did a study that happy workers are 12% more productive.
Oh, 12%?
Exactly. Who knew that was that precise? We kind of know that psychological safety, resilience, all of these things, humour helps enormously. And when the CEO does the announces the results, the end of year results, if they have a bit of humor, the stock price increases more than it would otherwise. People they looked at some people humor utterances, and the people who do have humor utterances in everyday life, they get a bigger bonus. Can you believe? This is a guy from Salesforce who really looked at this and even found if you have some humor utterances in your interview, a job interview, your bonus a year later is a bit higher. Now, the thing is, people out there are thinking, I'm not funny, I don't have a sense of humor. And I'm saying you don't have to be. You don't have to be.
Let go.
Let go. You can be a laugher. Don't be a joke teller. A lot of the improv I do is in the moment. I'll give you an example, which is irony. So I realize that my children are very bright because I married a very, very clever woman. I've only really taught them one thing, which is irony.
Right.
And I notice this now. Just things like you see somebody with a big hat. They don't say, that's a big hat. They go, what a shame he couldn't find a bigger one.
Right, okay.
And that's humour. That's the in-the-moment humour I like, which is...
Is that very British as well? That kind of focus on irony?
Oh, no. No, I've done this across the world.
Okay.
And
why has it been associated more with
because
the Brits?
I don't know, because we generally, if you ask a British person, how are you? Not bad.
Yeah.
Can't complain. It's
Right,
always
okay.
it's always what it isn't. Okay, considering sort of thing. So there is that. But on the other hand, for me, the comedy I love is Seinfeld, Frasier, Cheers, all of which is a huge irony there. That's the art. So I've done this across the world, teaching improv and storytelling skills, and a lot I do is, shame you couldn't get a bigger one when people arrive late. I'm so glad you arrived eventually. How kind of you to bring yourself. And I'm not doing jokes about British things at all. Anyway, so the in the moment humour, I give a 5-letter acronym. The last one is reincorporate or recycle, which is often a funny thing. Just mention what she said 10 minutes later in the new context.
I think I know this acronym. We've got to mention the acronym.
Callback as well. But originally it was lager.
Yeah.
Listen, accept, give an offer based on what you heard, explore assumptions. Because when you're doing a scene with somebody, people say, I don't know where to go next. Well, I say, well, if you're 2 police officers, who's the more senior? How do you feel about the police? What did you used to do? Where do you want to be? There's always something.
I'm an ex-cop as well, Neil.
Oh, that's right.
I know. This is spooky, isn't it?
It's weird because you've
guessed when I was born. We talked about the barrister. We talked about a police officer. I think you've done some homework.
I may have done, yeah. But there's always something. So Mike Myers used to say, keep it specific. So 2 characters. Hello, who are you? What are you doing? Boring. Hello, Adam. Great since you got out of jail. You've lost so much weight. Something where you just kind of create a backstory out of nowhere. And so I call it explore assumptions in a scene. There's always something to know. Ooh, you can go back. You can delve deeper. Why today? Why have these characters met? But also in terms of interpersonal relationships, whenever you meet somebody, they've got a whole bunch of assumptions about you. You might have about them.
Yeah, of course.
Which is, oh, you're an accountant. You must be this. Oh, you're a lawyer. You must be that. No, everyone is different. Everyone is unique. And the last one to make it lager is I used to say recycle. Keep kind of coming back to a thing somebody said earlier. But then the CEO of somewhere, big important man, said, oh, use the proper improv word, reincorporate, which is corp, body. Bring back into the body something.
Right.
So lots of stories have things that come back. The character.
A lot of comedians do that, don't they? They bring something.
Yeah, and then your friends in NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, they'll say nesting and looping.
Nesting and I have not heard that before.
Well, I think you should. But you understand, it kind of makes sense. Nesting and talk about cheese, then half an hour later you mention cheese again.
Yeah.
So Eddie Izzard, Susie Izzard would say...
Hang on, Eddie Izzard did a lovely testimonial for your book, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Yes.
How do you know Eddie?
I performed with Eddie.
Did you?
Yes. Let me just finish one more. Mrs. Bad Crumble.
Right.
And he'll throw in Mrs. Bad Crumble or something like that. Billy Connolly. Dara O'Brien. They throw in a thing from earlier.
Yeah.
Eddie Izzard. Right, Eddie Izzard. So for years, I used to bump into this bloke, 3 a.m. He's just come out of the comedy store, failed again, open spot, disaster, doesn't get a gig. Can't even remember his name. What, Frank, how are you? No, it's Eddie. All right, okay. Then kind of cut to, you see Eddie's doing the West End. He made a positive of his particular way of doing things.
Yeah.
He said, nobody's giving me a gig. And so I'll set up my own comedy club. So after 2 weeks, no more material. He just had to make it up.
Right.
So he made a thing of his just chatting. There's a thing over there. Interesting. Let's see what happens there. That kind of chatty conversational stuff, which is so not what you should do in stand-up.
But it took off, didn't it?
But it took off. But stand-up should be ba-da-ba-da, jung, ba-da-ba-da,
Right.
bing. Here's his da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Different rhythm to it.
Different rhythm, yeah.
Okay.
And so then he was interested in improv. And so there was a TV radio show called Misdemeanors, which he asked me to host. And then we did a talk called One Word Improv, which is you ask the audience for one word and we make it up. So
Right.
it's unlike the Comedy Store Players, which is called short form,
Yep.
where you do sketch, like who's line it, generate, freeze, let's do another sketch. We could do 10 minutes on one word. We could do 10 seconds. It was very open, but it was great. There were just 4 of us, Stephen Frost of the Oblivion brothers and Suki Webster as well. And so we toured, and that was great fun. And we just giggled a lot. And I can tell you, playing to an Eddie Izzard audience is a joy. they've come for his kind of humour. You've come to laugh at something that stretches them a bit.
Right.
You can be a bit crazy. You can push them a little bit. One time, somebody gave a suggestion when we were in the West End at the Albury Theatre. Somebody said semiotics. Because I vaguely know what it means.
Oh, well, you're ahead of me.
Yeah, exactly. But it's kind of, symbolism.
Right.
Kind of. We didn't really do. We did about somebody wearing some otics, and they were only semi-otics. Playing to Eddie's audience is a joy. So that's how Eddie was kind enough to give a nice endorsement for my book.
There are many endorsements for the book, which is absolutely great. You just mentioned a word that I certainly didn't understand, and we're living we're living really a time of generative AI, and I think you've even mentioned ChatGPT. It's not going to replace good old improv, comedy, and human connection, is it?
I don't think it is, but it's getting better. So my book, which is called In the Moment, on the front cover, it says,
hold it up for us.
A creative masterclass for every moment.
Look
says
at that.
Mike Myers. There we go. We got it. That's an early draft. So they've got the Mike Myers quote on the front.
Have you got it on the front there?
Yes, a creative masterclass for every moment.
And surprisingly, Mike Myers is calling in now, isn't he? He's not.
Well, maybe he should. So I think the two things we've got to deal with now are remote, virtual working, how do we create culture, get people to learn on the job when they're not in the same room, and robots, remote and robots. AI can do so much.
Yes.
And it's interesting because we used to think that maybe some manual labour will be taken by robots. Now it looks like ChatGPT is going to take knowledge workers their lunch. I did sit once next to somebody who'd run his own software business. And he said, you've chosen the right thing to teach improv because there's two things. There's creativity and human connection.
Which will never be replaced.
I say that.
You hope.
I say that, but I'm just wondering. I just watched some on Twitter where somebody was having a sort of boxing match with a robot. And the robot managed to get up and fight back.
I saw that.
They managed to program it.
I don't know whether any of this is real anymore.
But also the papers 2 days ago were saying in 2 years' time, AI will threaten humans. They could kill some. I don't know how they would do that, but I am scared. On the other hand, if you ask ChatGPT, should I go on holiday to Bermuda or Mill Hill? It'll give you a reasoned argument.
Yeah.
And because it can collate lots of data very quickly and form sentences.
Of course. It can draw down on so much more than we can ever hope to.
On the other hand, can it have those leaps of imagination that human beings can do, that occasionally are required, those in-the-moment things where you let go of what are the people going to think? This is such a crazy idea.
Chaotic connection.
The divergent thinking, which is, that's not even the right question.
Yeah.
So at the moment, I don't think AI can do that. But I'm nervous to predict it won't ever. What I also do know that people like people. We like to be able to look at a person and get a smile and so forth. Again, could a robot do that?
That's why we're in the studio together, Neil, because this is fun, right?
Because you said, will you come to Mill Hill? Oh, all right. And of course, it's much more fun. On the other hand, you've done Zoom things. I've done Zoom things with people all over the world.
Yeah.
4 o'clock in the morning for them or us. And that connection, that human connection, now is possible over Zoom, YouTube, Teams, etc., Google video calls. Isn't it great? And also, I say to people, when you've got a meeting, you can see their face more than you could if you're sitting around a board table.
Right.
And the face is something that sends a lot of information.
So you mentioned remote, and I know that's on a lot of leaders' minds that they're leading remote teams. So what are your, any thoughts or advice for people who are trying to connect and trying to succeed on that front?
There's kind of a big picture one, which is keep talking to people, whether it's on the phone.
Using different media.
Just have a phone call.
Right.
My friends at Ashridge Business School had a quite good thing where they looked at leaders, asked what they were doing before lockdown, during lockdown. And during lockdown, they were doing much more emotional stuff, checking in with people and so forth. And of course, they said, basically, beware, check in, don't check up. But how do you kind of keep in touch with people without feeling, well, why are you checking in on me? What's going on? Haven't you got something better to do? On the other hand, when you do see people face to face, make it worth their while. I.e., don't just, we'll meet and make it creative, collaborative. That investment of face to face will pay off in the ensuing months of when we're remote. So don't just say, come in because we're giving you Danish pastries or yoga.
And then you can just do your calls and your emails from the office.
That's what people say. They come into the office and they're still remote, as it were, in the little booths and stuff. So make it a place they want to come because there's going to be human connection. And acknowledge that people want to be seeing their children, their cats, their next door neighbour watering the plants at 11 a.m. So Monday, Friday, they could do that. But make Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, if that's the thing, make that work. But also now it's the person, not the place.
Okay.
I think. So if there is somebody, and I've got a friend who's got a child with special needs, neurodivergent, she needs to be there more than perhaps some other parents. So she can't be in the office so much. But actually during lockdown, she said she felt much more included because everyone was equal. It wasn't just her calling in. And so make those virtual calls much more human. Make them fun. Start with a chat. Get people to talk about how they are. I do things like, where are you? I'm in Mill Hill. Are you wearing socks? Anything like that gets us talking about who we are. Bring in the introverts. Get people to talk. If you're facilitating, get people to not talk too much. Throw to somebody else. As a leader, sometimes don't facilitate because your way may not be the way that helps everybody. Get somebody else to facilitate.
Different mechanism. There's chat box. There's hands up.
Well,
there's
exactly.
all of these
I
things.
encourage not just the thumbs up, or, the digital one. I get people that thumbs up. Oh, I disagree. Oh, not so sure. And then every 15 minutes try and do something. Do you know the 20-20-20 rule?
I don't.
Every 20 minutes, stand up. Look away 20 feet and focus for 20 seconds. Just it means your brain's relaxing.
Reset,
yeah, because it's really hard to look at something two-dimensional.
Well, we got complete Zoom fatigue.
Zoom
fatigue. That was a thing.
Versus Netflix intrigue. Which is Netflix.
As subscriptions went up.
Yes. But what I'm Netflix TV, when you watch TV, and I don't know if James is doing lots of vision mixing here, but you kind of tends to cut. Dun, 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 two shot, wide shots.
Yeah, you can see, look, he's got all these camera angles now.
We're thinking differently, whereas some dullard going on and on for a half an hour, maybe not even seeing them, but they're a thumbnail. There's less visual information, so I overdo it sometimes.
I love that.
There's a guy called Mark Bowden, truthplane.com, he's a body language expert, and he teaches Zoom employees how to use Zoom. So stand up when you're presenting. Animate the screen. Even don't be in the centre. He had a whole brilliant YouTube about the Dutch masters, Vermeer. They don't always put the interesting thing in the middle of the shot.
Right.
It's slightly to one side.
Intriguing.
And there are lines. And where do the lines finish? I've got a bookcase in my office.
Oh, I've seen your...
And the lines hopefully go into my eyes. This is post-rationalisation.
I don't know what's going on here now.
But just, make the experience for the user, your colleague who's watching you on Teams, just a bit more interesting. Don't have the up-the-nose shot. Don't have a light behind you to silhouette you. So there's that kind of thing. Make the meetings fun. Make them not too short. One big company I know, their Outlook calendar defaults to 25 minutes and 45.
Right.
So don't make your meetings an hour. Give yourself 5 minutes between.
Yeah, a lot of companies are doing that now, aren't they?
And my big tip, which I had in my previous book called 7 Steps to Improve Your People Skills.
Look at you, multiple. Also.
Even before the lockdown, was put something in your diary, leader, Ms. Leader, Mr. Leader, that's nothing. Project Rainbow, Project Pacifico.
Oh,
think, walk, get outdoors. Do something where you're not just endlessly... at the beck and call of tasks.
Or sometimes be still.
Be still. Or be moving. Be outdoors. Another one, Liz Kentish, one of my chums, great facilitator from the facilities management world. She does shoes on, screen on. Go for a walk with somebody on FaceTime.
Right.
But put the screen that way, so they're looking, oh, look, there's a chicken. Oh, look, there's a dog, there's a bush. So you're seeing the same thing.
There'll be no chickens in Mill Hill.
Well, not yet.
It's true.
But you kind of, again, let's be creative with this, because I think too many people are doing what they did in March 2020.
Right.
Oh, let's have a meeting. Okay. Oh, we can do a camera. Laptop on. Do the same thing.
We've moved on.
I hope we have.
Well, it's true.
So many people
in pockets.
Haven't. So start using it. It's a bit of television, a bit like radio. It's a bit like a phone call. You've got the text. You can put emojis in. You can
use everything.
Use everything. And also things like when you say, what does everyone think? Nobody's going to put their hand up. You say, Adam, or everyone puts something in chat. What do you think of this? And then Adam puts something in. Adam, I'll come to you in a minute to talk about that a bit more. So A, you bring people in.
Gives me warning.
B, give me warning. And I can look at your face. If your face is going, I'll go, Maybe Adam doesn't have so much to contribute now.
Adam, suddenly his camera's gone.
Something like that. So I'll talk a bit more. And that's why I get thumbs up, getting people moving. It gets the energy going. Do some chair yoga. Think of this medium as a whole new thing, which needs new skills, which are allied to the ones we may have already had, but it needs energy.
I love that. And I remember talking to Adrian Simpson, who said, if we're going into the office, then go in for one of three reasons, or all of them. And that was connection, celebration, or education. And I like that for almost an underlying reason of getting people back into the office.
That's great. Connection, celebration, education.
Yes.
That's great.
That's nice, isn't it?
That's fab.
And I think you've referenced a number of those. So many chapters, I think 9 chapters to the book. We've talked a little bit about human connection, but I think we should talk a little bit more about human connection. I see you saw that the eyebrow was raised there. Look, hopefully we're not going to be extinct in the next 2 years off the back of
Who knows?
But it was nice knowing you, Neil.
James has already left the building.
He's actually done a runner down the street of Mill Hill Broadway. But how important is it for you, or how do you connect with people within the first couple of minutes when you're either one-to-one or even one-to-many? Because you're trying to build a rapport sometimes with people you don't know. So there could be leaders who are thinking to themselves, I've got to do a presentation to one, too many, too many. How do they get that human connection off the bat?
Well, there are some things that are similar for a presentation to a bunch of people, 100 watching, versus one individual. Both you could do with eye contact. Eye contact is good.
Yes.
And so even on virtual, I look at the camera, not at the screen.
Yes, which is why I've got a screen in front of the camera.
Yeah. I say to people, where am I looking? They say, oh, you look at me. I said, well, actually, if I looked at you, you're there.
Yeah.
So you can't do it all the time. I look at the camera and then I look down occasionally. But eye contact, one-to-one, is great. Eye contact to an audience, look around, keep looking, throw it around, not looking down, not looking behind at your screen. Look at this slide. Isn't it great? Much more interesting than me.
If you're at the Comedy Store, there are hundreds of people in the audience. So how are you addressing hundreds of people?
And also, they're like this, exactly. They're not just in front of you. So you've got to do quite a lot of this. You've got to look around. But that's right. Just a quick glance at somebody there, somebody here, somebody there.
Do you hold eye contact with people
long
for a
enough
period?
to get to the
to
colour of their eye? The colours of their eye.
Right.
That's what I say. Most of the audience in the Comedy Store you can't see because they're in darkness. You can see the front few rows. But I would say when you're doing a speech, ask for the house lights to be up 50%.
Right.
The technician will understand what you mean by that. Because then you can sort of see them, but they're not in completely bright light, so they feel self-conscious.
Right.
So play with that. Again, prep, go in, work out where you got to stand. Is the mic going to work? Are your shoes going to clomp on the stage? Just things like that. How easy it is to get on and off. Where are you going to put the pack for your radio mic? You're going to put it down your bra, inside your pocket, whatever. Because, of course, they never have things for women. But I say to women, ask for a pouch ahead of time so that pack can go in the pouch rather than having to be hold in your hand, whatever. Anyway, eye contact is good.
Little things make a big difference.
Like that, technical stuff. But in the more sort of general, how do I connect with people? I love to get a response. So the response could be a smile, but you might just say, how are you today? If you can try and get something where they're nodding, it'd be good. Right. So and then there's a bit of a psychological thing.
I found myself nodding.
I'm nodding with you. Yeah, I agree with everything you're going to say. Who here came by train? Who here's got an iPhone? Anything like that, where you might get a few nods. What I also do is I might meet a few people beforehand.
Oh, right.
And then say, what do we all think of that? It depends how big the audience is. I know, Adam, you had this, and I found you, Sheila, next to the biscuits or something like that. So there's a bit of something.
Okay.
Try and find a connection, I would say. But when you're presenting, it's very much broadcast. You're doing most of the speaking. So first of all, think about the audience. Who are they? What do they need to know from you? What do you need from them? And do you like Kentucky Fried Duck?
No.
Well, it's not available, but it's my little acronym, which I borrowed from Paul McGee, the sumo guy, which he may have borrowed from elsewhere. I don't know. But what do you want the audience to K, to know, to F, to feel, D, do?
Know, feel, do.
KFD.
Kentucky Fried Duck.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can. Do they want to know the facts? Do they want to feel confidence in you? Are they going to buy you?
Is it a combination of all three?
I think you've got to do all three. I mean, some might say do is more based on feel. But I would say there's an
Or the action part of it.
Yeah, kind of. But I know that if I know a good number, 12%, I might do something about it. So do you see what I mean? Emotional data is one thing, rational data is another. But if you have got some good rational data, it will affect your emotions. Yeah, exactly. If you say I've lost £1 million, that's quite an emotional thing. Whereas, but you see what I mean? It's kind of so they're all connected, I would say. But quite often you're giving a presentation and people don't know why. Well, why are you doing it? Well, because I've been asked to. Why are you doing it? Well, because I've got some slides. Well, what do you want the audience to do? What's the call to action? Do you want them to buy you? Kentucky Fried Duck.
I like that.
What's the point? I mean, are you reassuring them, in a project? You want to reassure the client, everything's okay, leave me alone. So you want them to know everything's okay, to feel satisfied, and do nothing.
Right.
Sometimes you're pitching, you want the do, and all you might be doing is to get the second meeting. So the connections, I would say, eye contact, simple things like slow down. When you're presenting, we should speak a bit slower with a bit more intentionality. So we tend to speak in real life at 125 words a minute. When you're presenting, go at 100.
But when you're nervous, a lot of us
you
will
go
speed
fast.
up. So it's
my tips is when I'm being paid a lot of money for somebody, the closer it is to the gig, the more simple I am.
Right.
So I'll just say, pause, breathe, smile. Not always in that order.
Okay.
Because when you're nervous, you do go faster.
Yes.
And then you realize you're going faster, so you think, I'll go faster. And then if I really go fast, I get on. One person I did ask once, why are you going so fast? He said, well, because I want to get off as soon as possible.
I know. I'll get to the end and then
of course,
I'm out of the building.
It creates the very opposite.
I know.
You look untrustworthy. You don't enjoy it. They don't enjoy you.
And I'm assuming also that audiences will pick up on your nervousness and then they inherit. And now they're nervous for you and they're thinking, oh, my God, I feel really uncomfortable.
It's iterative.
Yes.
So the yes and works in both directions.
Okay.
Yes, I'm nervous. Yes, you're nervous. And
I'm nervous for you being
I'm nervous for you. You look at me, mate. And it comes a spiral of disaster rather than a bubble of possibility.
I want to ask you just some questions about two other chapters, and I'll say to people, where can you get your book? Well, it's probably obvious where you can get your book. Leadership mindset. Just help us with the essence of that, because I'm hoping there's lots of people listening to this, watching this, who have a leadership role in some way, shape, or form.
Or they want to be. Now, I call it leadership mindset.
Even if you're just leading yourself.
Well, in a way, you're leading yourself. Some people might want to be leaders, and then you realise, actually, I'm leading, but I don't have that in my job title. Leadership mindset. When I started this 25 years ago, I thought improv was just, let's listen, let's work together, conversational intelligence, something like that. And then I discovered there was a whole load of models, business school models about leadership, about organizations, which are much closer to Darwin, adaptation, complex, emergence, nature, versus Newton, which is machine, which is all our org structures tend to look like machines, don't they? Process.
Yes.
You need a bit of process, but actually, any organization, any team is just a bunch of people having conversations. It's fuzzy. It's messy.
Well, every organisation is made up of that complex thing called humans.
Exactly. And so when I discovered there were a load of mindsets and models. So, for example, there's a guy called Ronald Heifetz from Harvard Business School. He's got the adaptive leadership.
You really have changed, Neil.
I've borrowed everyone's ideas. There's a guy called Keith Grint who talks about the problems that might face a leader. There's a simple one. There's a critical one, which is we've got to do this right now. Get out of the building. It's a fire. Easy. No leadership question there. Do it. Then there's kind of, there's a sort of tame technical issue. We need to think about this. Let's have a meeting. Let's have a committee. Let's reorganize things. There's some sort of outcome which is democratically decided. But then we get to wicked problems. Oh. Don't you ever find that, Adam? There are some organizations, some teams, you can't solve it. In fact, you try and solve it and then they're happy, you piss off them. Excuse me. You cheese off them.
We can bleep that one out, can't we?
You cheese off another
I've got to tick a different box now when we publish this, James.
That's true. Adult offence, yeah. So the thing is, he talks about multiple partial solutions. I call it improv. Bricolage, a French word meaning flea market. You buy stuff, you would do some unusual things that, try this, try that. Actually use an elastic band to mend that. Kind of acknowledging there's no point saying we are here, we want to end up there. So leadership is being in the moment sometimes, being comfortable with sometimes not knowing. And improv is actually trying to make the other person look good. This is where joke tellers who try and do improv miss the idea. It's actually, all my job is to follow the follower. Got to build on your idea. And she's doing that to me. And that co-creation, that generative idea becomes wonderful. So in terms of leadership, what is your job? There are times you'll know the answer. And I've got a quadrant I've drawn in the book, which I borrowed from a guy called Ralph Stacey about emergent leadership.
See what? Just more evidence in the change.
Sometimes it's obvious what to do. Do that. Why wouldn't you not? I've been here before. I've been around. Do this. Save time.
Seen it before.
Yeah, I know the answer. And then there's times where, actually, my job isn't to know the answer, but to curate the question, or to let other people ask the question. Maybe that new person who's just young and they'll know better than me.
Well, no leader can have the answers to all of the questions that we are surrounded by. They're just too.
You say that, Adam, but a lot of leaders, when I show them that particular quadrant, they go, "What a relief! So it's okay if I don't know." And I'm saying it's more than okay.
It's like a weight off the shoulder.
If you acknowledge you don't know, that could be where something may happen that's great. And I kind of talk about, we talk about a gap in the market. There's a market in the gap. In the not knowing, something new and novel may come that your competitors haven't thought of.
So it's almost embracing that space that you embrace for improv of not knowing and the uncertainty and letting go and seeing what emerges.
The quadrant has, if you go too far, because it's uncertainty and disagreement.
We're doing this now.
Exactly that.
X Factor
it's
almost.
more like that.
Oh, okay, fine.
There's an area bottom left, certainty, no to do, that's fine.
Yep.
Then all bit of uncertainty, that's where we step in, adaptive leadership, leader's job, get the questions asked. Then here, lots of uncertainty, lots of disagreement, chaos. And I describe these in 3 ways. Is Isaac Newton down here, machines, lines, laws of motion, straightforward.
Yes.
Then Darwin, adaptation. Yeah, move about, see what happens.
Yep.
Things happen, things evolve. Try something out, then keep looking at it. And then top right, I call it Mr. Bean, disaster. There's no organisation, there's no structure. People don't even agree on what the question might be, or that I don't want to be in the same room as you. What are we doing? Are we making widgets or are we creating services? Don't know what to do. So you kind of, and I'm going to, here we go, Adam. Are you ready for this?
I am.
Are you ready for this? When I was first introduced to this idea, that area, that sweet spot was called bounded instability.
Bounded instability.
Yeah. Okay. So there's kind of a bit of instability. What do we do? What's going to happen? But it's kind of, it's framed safely. The leader's job is almost to kind of say, it's okay, we'll be all right. And they might do that through just the words they say. They don't have to draw a diagram. They say, look, I'm the leader.
We'll get out Neil's
And
quadrant.
then where humour is here. What if we dressed up as chickens? That kind of thing. And so Adam Kingle, whom we love, his book is called Sparking Success.
Yes. He's coming in, by the way.
Well, ask him about Friends. So that the head writer on Friends often in the writer's room would say something completely outlandish and bizarre, just so as to facilitate those who are thinking, I've got a bit out there idea, dare I say it. He said, it's okay. It's okay to say something a bit weird. Because it allowed others...
The spark of success.
The kind of, it's allowed, even if the boss is looking a bit stupid here.
Yeah.
But also, sometimes that stupid idea may lead to one that is actually one you can get to work. So I talk about creativity as well. And brainstorming doesn't always work because often it's the loudest voice. The quiet voice is thinking, these ideas are just too mad. I'm saying let's have creativity every day. Day-to-day things, and that's where a leader can help.
Okay.
Somebody's got an idea. Let's move the coffee machine over there. That's creativity. Let's move the paper clips there.
Mix it up.
Not, I've got this wonderful idea for a whole new service and product. But that environment that the leader curates.
Something simple. You can.
Something simple. It's okay, I have an idea. All right, that's fine. And yes, and we'll try that maybe. Yes, and rather than yes, but that won't work. Yes, but let me tell you why it won't work, sort of thing.
I love it. I could chat to you for ages. You know that. I've got one final question in relation to the final chapter of the book, because I'm always intrigued. It comes up, especially within a leadership conversation as well. And that's your best advice in relation to the ability of a leader to tell a story.
Yes. Well, I've got a whole chapter on storytelling.
I know.
And I'm thinking leadership.
Now I'm getting you to cherry pick. So unfair of me.
Leadership, you've got to be a storyteller. And you go, oh no, I can't.
Well, exactly. A lot of people, I can't.
Well, you don't have to be funny. You don't have to be good. It doesn't have to be a shaggy dog. It can be just story, which is. There are 3 types of stories. It's how we got here.
Yes.
Where we are now. Where we're going to go next.
Those are the 3 types.
Those, for me, that the leader has to do.
Yes.
And you can also do it in selling, in telling a client, which is, the reason you're here is because da-da-da-da. Actually, you didn't realize where you're at is da-da-da. You're on the cusp of something bad. Or if you're not careful, you're on the cliff edge to go down the toilet. Or actually, guess what? This is where you could be. And you listen to the client and they say, we've got this idea, the brief. And then, and then you kind of create the story from what they've said. Brilliant thing on LinkedIn the other day, which is about chat GPT, advertising copywriters, which is, it's all right, chat GPT can do advertising copy, but can chat GPT question the brief? No, because often the creatives say to the client, is that what you really want? What's
that curiosity?
That actually, you haven't expressed it
Inquiry.
very well. So often their job is to rewrite the brief, not just to write an advert. Anyway, so storytelling doesn't have to be long drawn out. It can just be an image. It can just be a metaphor. Often I say to people in business, what do you do? And they say, management consultants, we do spreadsheets. And I say, well, actually, what you did, because of you, the COVID app worked. Because of you, the army can help people across the world. Because of you, my friend, the consumer, can go buy that thing more quickly, more readily.
Yeah.
Oh, hello. So what's the real world effect? So basically I say, think of 3 acts. Think of the end state. Where was it? Where is it now? Because of us, somebody can do something quicker, better, cheaper. Where was it before? Oh, it took too long. There were too many people. It was dull. Okay, you got act, beginning and end. That's the story.
Yep.
You just knew a little bit of Act 2, which is what you did. Because they get very, well, we did a project, we did a spreadsheet, we did a digital transformation, we did KPIs, we did leverage, we did sustainability. What? Don't do that. Just say, we did a few things. Don't do too much on Act 2. So story, there are lots of different formats for story. But basically think about where you got to, where you started, and you did something in the middle.
Love it. I'll be sharing that, by the way. I've got to go to Singapore and talk to some leaders and talk about storytelling. So I might yank that bit out and there we go. See, I'm taking you all over the world with me, Neil. I want to ask you some either-or questions, if I may. So you ready for this rapid fire?
Here we go. Yes.
Improv session.
Yes.
Right, here we go. Starting easy first.
Yes.
Train or plane?
Train.
Cook or do the dishes?
Cook.
Vacation or staycation?
Vacation.
Funny story or one-liner?
Funny story.
Owe money or owe a favour?
Owe a favour.
Time machine or magic wand?
Time machine.
Oh, you looked very excited at that. Speeding ticket or parking ticket?
Oh, I get both.
We live in London.
I know.
It's inevitable.
The other day I got caught for driving. You know, there's areas near schools you can't drive in. This was a bank holiday. Can I appeal?
It matters.
You're a barrister.
It matters.
Do you know
not,
the law?
Neil.
Oh,
matters
no.
not. Pay the money.
This is so difficult. Parking ticket or speeding? Oh gosh, I go speeding.
Okay. How about air guitar or air drums?
Air drums.
Oh yeah, no.
I love rhythm.
Oh well, there you go. Zombies or vampires?
Ooh, I'm terrified of zombies. Vampires seem a little bit sexy and funny, so I'm going to go vampire.
Okay, fair enough. Last one. I like this one. Comedian in a serious film or serious actor in a comedy film?
Oh, I think I like it when comedians in serious films because it shows we can act. And not many serious actors can do comedy. Of course, many are great. But ultimately, if they just play it for laughs, they're going to lose it. So there you go.
Okay, and last one. How can people get hold of the book? Hold your book up in the moment. Here it is on the screen in your hand.
It's called In the Moment. It's available on Amazon. It's also available from the website of the publisher, who are called Kogan Page.
Well,
Kogan Page. Do you have a bit at the bottom in these things?
Sure.
Because there's a discount code.
Oh, well, give us the discount code. We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
But also, you've got a www address, haven't you?
Yes, neilmullarkey.com.
Fine.
And then /In the Moment book, if you like. But what you really want to do, Adam, I know you're going to be doing this later, is giving a 5-star review on Amazon.
I will. Will you be giving a 5-star review for the show?
6 stars.
Oh, look at you.
Yes, especially for the post-show
for James,
nutrition.
For James as well.
Yeah, well, I've got to have a massage now and a sauna and some sushi. Isn't that right, James?
Yeah, just a little. Yep. When's your next big gig?
Big gig. Well, every Sunday is a big gig.
Right.
I'm at the Comedy Store in London, comedystoreplayers.com. They're there every Sunday. Please come along. You have to be over 18, but that's okay.
I just about make that.
I think so.
I've had a wicked thought.
Yes.
How about if we came to you and followed you one night and did a little bit of, I don't know, James, how could we do this where we go with Neil to one and we pressure test some of this. We actually take some footage of him getting ready for the show, going on, coming off, and in the moment we ask him for his thoughts and feedback.
It could be quite dull. The show will be fun. We get there half an hour beforehand.
Yep.
We just sit around and talk. We do one little exercise. If it goes well, we're very worried. It has to be bad.
Yeah.
Then we get on. Then after we go home. We're deeply un-showbiz now.
Can we?
You can certainly come
along.
along.
You that and dig into it a little bit.
Yeah.
What do you reckon?
The other thing is actually this could go crazy. James,
you ready?
Adam, what about we do the Leadership Enigma live improv show? So then we do that.
Right.
I don't know.
What's this going to look like? We're improving. Let's go.
As far as I've heard, you've got about 6 listeners. Is that right? And that's an improv
most
team.
of my family.
Your family.
Don't knock it, Neil.
The Pacifico family, James and his friend, can come along.
And the studio dog.
And the studio dog. Anybody from West Ham as well, if we can get them. Or not. And we could do it. We could do a live podcast where people send in suggestions.
Right.
Or we could do it at the Comedy Store or at the Mill Hill Playhouse or something like that.
What do you reckon, James? Can we do this?
To show anybody can do it. Because I often do this with organisations where I say, give me some people, they have to volunteer. And if the volunteer, they're always right because they said, I'm up for it, I'll do anything. Give me an hour, we'll do an improv show. And they do it in front of the rest of the organisation and it's great.
Let's go make it. I think this is a first, isn't it, James? I think what we're talking about is the first Leadership Enigma live at the Comedy Store.
Absolutely.
Improv special. What could possibly go wrong? Neil, don't hesitate on the answer to that
I'm just
question.
wondering whether you do it live or not, or whether you record it. But the fun is there. I'm just wondering who you could interview Adam Kingle, but you could interview somebody. Then we do a little bit of a show. Because I think you could do this, Adam. I think James can. He can do it. Because you're both naturally yes and type people.
Okay.
Which is the beginning of it, really. Yes, I'll go with that plus a bit more. That's what it is, really. And then you go to places you didn't expect. So that's the main thing is I don't mind where we're going, but we're going to go there together.
And with a smile on our face.
All over.
Well, I think we've got lots of projects off the back of this one. So, Neil, you've been an absolute superstar for coming into sunny Bermuda, Mill Hill, for the Leadership Enigma. Have you had fun, sir?
I have had fun, thank you.
There we go. Drinks are on you.
Splendid.
Well, it's water.
Actually, the water. This is delicious.
Marvellous,
These
isn't it?
recycled cans, canowater.com.
Well, look at you. He's just done a great advert for Cano Water. Brilliant. Thanks very much indeed. Everybody, please like, subscribe. You don't want to miss this episode. And who knows where we're going with this one. We're going somewhere. Take care.
Thank you.
Join us again next week for more curiosity and insight with the Leadership Enigma. We'd love to hear your comments on today's show as well as suggestions for future topics and guests. Get in touch with me on LinkedIn or visit us at www.leadersenigma.com. Don't forget to rate, review and subscribe on all your major podcast platforms and on our dedicated YouTube channel. Thanks again for joining the community.